Welcome to Down the Garden Path. I'm your host, Joanne Shaw, landscape designer and plant lover. I enjoy discussing down-to-earth tips and advice to help you seasonally manage your garden and landscape. And I also aim to bring you interesting and relevant topics to educate you all about the landscaping and horticultural industry. Everyone to this episode of Down the Garden Path. I'm excited to introduce you to CL. She is a creative gardening expert, aka plant geek, who transitioned from artist to garden communicator in 1995. She's the author of 8 books, including her latest, Sand and Soil, Creating Beautiful Gardens on Cape Cod and the Islands, published by David R. Godine, Inc. In the mid-1990s, she was asked to write a book about gardening, and she thought, when opportunity knocks, don't be the person who says, can someone else get that? 8 books later, she is the host of GardenLine, a live call-in radio show heard on WXTK. No?
Not anymore.
Not anymore?
You have an old bio.
I know one. Okay.
I'm the host of The Garden Lady on WCAI.
Okay, Garden Lady. I like that. And speaks to groups nationwide in person and virtually. She grows vegetables, flowers, and numerous other plants on Cape Cod. And last but not least, you are the current president of Garden Communicators International. Welcome to Down the Garden Path.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be with you.
Yes, me too. So that's great. So the Garden Lady, so that is your show?
That's right. I started in January a new program on an NPR station after being on commercial radio for 22 years. And first of all, don't ever start a new radio show in January.
Especially with gardening. Because
many people are, taking a little snooze for the winter at that point. But it's fun. It's fun to start something new after 22 years. So
excellent. And you start off with like a certain topic, or you kind of?
I start every show with a postcard from plants. And you can see the actual postcards on the blog at my website, which is gardenlady.com. I have an actual, visual postcard. But the idea of postcards from plants is, what if the green man or Mother Nature could send you some pithy tips of advice, right? Just what would fit on a postcard on a variety of topics. So we always start off with that. And then it kind of, every show is a little bit different.
And people, can they call in or write in?
That it's a call-in radio. People can email me, but now the calls are coming in so fast and consistent that I don't have time to go and look at the emails. So.
Right. Yes, I was talking before we hit record about my previous internet radio show, and nobody would call in, but we did get emails, so it was nice. How do you find it? So this was one of our funny challenges we had, was no matter what the show topic was on, it's the questions that come in about completely something else.
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, if I have a guest, I don't take calls when the guest is on.
Perfect.
Because my guest could be talking about her latest book on plants and Greek mythology, and someone would call in and ask about their lawn, yes. So I don't take calls when I have a guest. We do that in a separate segment, and then I take calls, and at that point anything goes. I don't care what they call about.
Right.
It could be anything. Yeah.
Yes, that's a good way to handle it. And it's funny you say that about lawns, because Matt and I had a joke, my previous co-host and I, that no matter what we talked about, there was always an email about lawns.
Sure. Well, there's certain things that I can count on people calling about. Lawns is one. Where I live, hydrangeas is number 2.
Okay.
I could be the hydrangea hotline. And in fact, I just delivered to a publisher my next book, which is called Hydrangea Happiness. And it's a book about hydrangeas, 6 species, and it was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's wonderful. They happen to be my favorite.
Well, they're one of my favorites. People ask me what my favorite plant is, and I say, whatever I looked at 10 minutes ago,
Mm, yes. Yeah. And that is one of my questions I was going to ask you is what is your favorite plant? But
whatever I looked at 10 minutes ago.
okay, it changes. But you must like hydrangeas if you've written a book about them.
Yes, yes, I do like hydrangeas, and we grow the blue hydrangeas quite well here on the Cape. So
Mm,
so that's a focus. People associate that plant with Cape Cod.
they
And
do.
but there are so many other wonderful hydrangeas, and there are so many new varieties that even people in cold climates can be successful with.
Mhm.
So that was one of my goals with this book that will be out next spring,
Okay.
is to tell people in my home state of Wisconsin what blue hydrangeas they can successfully grow.
Okay, so is the focus blue, all the blue varieties?
No, it's
No.
it's
Okay.
6 different varieties: climbing hydrangeas, paniculatas, smooth hydrangeas, mountain, as
Okay.
well as the big leaf blue
Yeah.
balls. Yeah.
Yes. 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 Which in Ontario, they're hit or miss. There's some people that have tremendous success and then their next door neighbor can't do it. So
Sure, sure.
I kind of wonder if I love the dwarf varieties just because, they're a little easier to manage for regular homeowners, many of my clients. But I feel like they're coming out fast and furious with new varieties. Like it's hard to keep up.
Well, there's a new hydrangea introduced every 10 minutes. And this is why, if you're a garden communicator, you need to join GardenComm because then you know about these plants. And in fact, you will be sent these plants by, some of the growers if you request them, and you
Hmm.
can try them out yourself. And I have to say, the Proven Winners people sent me two of their new varieties, Let's Dance Sky View and
Okay.
Let's Dance Can Do, both of them shorter varieties. And both of them, the second summer that I had them, we had had a polar vortex winter before where it got down to 9 degrees below zero Fahrenheit. And needless to say, that's hydrangea kill
Yeah.
time. Both of those plants died to the ground. They came back from their roots and with flowers on the top of all those new stems from June on.
Wow.
So, that's what these growers are selecting for. They're selecting for smaller plants of all the varieties, and
Hmm.
all the varieties, not just the macrophyllus, and they're selecting for plants that the majority of people in North America can be successful with. So that's a wonderful thing. And they trial thousands of plants before they select 2 or 3 or 4 to introduce to the marketplace.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, that is good. So we'll have to watch for those. So why don't you? So I'll read this. I've got the mission statement of GardenComm here. So GardenComm provides opportunities for education, recognition, career development, and a forum for wide-ranging interactions and collaborations for professionals in the field of gardening communication.
That's right. Which
Excellent.
is bloggers, it is podcasters, it is broadcasters, writers, people who write for companies in the world of horticulture, photographers, speakers, any garden communications, extension agents, educators. It is the organization for those people. And I discovered it when I wrote my first book a while back,
Yeah.
97, I think it was 96, 97, the Cape Cod Garden. And somebody mentioned to me, well, you should join, at that time it was called Garden Writers. And so I joined Garden Writers. And I do have to say that I would not have the career that I have today had it not been for that. Because,
Wow.
unless you're a real famous author, you can't make a living just with a gardening book.
Mhm.
Uh, but for me, that book led to being on the radio, for which I am paid, and it led to speaking, for which I am well paid, and it led to writing other books. And you can put together a good living out of several pieces. So,
Mhm.
and all of that happened for me because I was a member of this organization.
Wonderful, wonderful. And there obviously there's a lot happening with the organization virtually, but there is also events too.
Well, they have gatherings. They have gatherings in all of the major horticultural events right now in the United States, anyway. And in fact, we're kind of having a relationship on with Landscape Ontario. Maybe we'll be up in Ontario next year, right?
Excellent. Yeah.
So we do have gatherings at things like the Northwest Flower and Garden Show in Seattle right now, the Philadelphia Flower Show in Philadelphia, Mance, which is the big trade show in Baltimore in January, and Cultivate, which is a big trade show in Ohio in July. And one of the reasons that we have gatherings at the trade shows is that we have relationships with those who are breeding the new plants and
Mhm.
those who are bringing out new products, right? And so we can make connections with them at trade shows so that we can bring what's happening in the world of horticulture on a frontline basis. We can bring that to the public.
Excellent. Yes. And I do remember I'm a friends with Helen, and I do remember them attending a meeting at Canada Blooms. You know, unfortunately, we no longer have Canada Blooms, but they used to hold, I think it was garden writers back then, you know,
Yeah,
meetings and things that I was always curious about. But again, you know, there's only so much time in the day. And so I did join last year, as I was telling you before the show that I need to renew. So I will do that shortly after this podcast. But yes, I because of there is like the power circles for podcasters that I've been a part of, and there's so much, you know, that's the challenge, right? Is I when I see the emails come through, it's like you want to attend to everything, really.
sure, sure. Well, there are a lot of resources, and
Hmm.
I think it's particularly valuable for people who, well, it's for valuable for several people. It's valuable for newbies who think, how do I turn all of my passion for plants? You know, how do I
Right.
turn this into a book? Or how do I turn this into a speaking career? Or how do I connect with other people to promote the book that I have coming out? And that's,
Hmm.
you know, another way that the organization functions well is, you know, we hear about each other and the what we have going on, and then we help promote each other. And you know, it's in this world where everyone is bombarded by information all the time, right? You need all the boosts you can get, particularly if you're newly entering a field. And organizations are great for that, whether it's a
Yeah.
organization of garden communicators or organizations of, you know, ecological professionals or whatever. Organizations where you make those person-to-person contact. That's it. It is really wonderful. Yeah,
Yes, I mean, as far as networking goes, anyone with their own business, right, knows how important networking is. But to network with people in the same industry, you know, you can't beat that, right?
that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know when we've met when I've joined the podcast, I mean, it is just fascinating that regardless of who's podcasting about what and where in the country or in the world people are, we have the same struggles, right? We have the
Yeah,
same challenges.
sure.
So yeah, so there is something to be said for that, you know, to have a not just a networking organization, but within the same industry, like a garden communicator. I love that term too.
Well, you know, we realized at a certain point that some people were not joining the organization because it was called garden writers. And
Mm,
they would say, well, I'm not a writer, I'm a blogger. They made a distinction,
mhm,
you know,
mhm.
um, or I'm not a writer. I don't have a book published, but I like to speak to local master gardeners or whatever it was.
Yeah.
They were thinking that you had to be a published writer to join the organization. And, in the internet age, there are far more ways to communicate than writing books.
Mhm.
So that was why the change of name,
Yeah.
because we felt it spoke to more people.
And thank you for saying that, because that, when I first came aware of it and I was just a podcaster, I felt the same. Like, I'm not a writer, I'm not writing anything, I'm not selling a book at the time, and really, I don't know if it's an inferiority complex or whatever, but you just don't think it's you're not the same in the room, right? But yes, but saying communicator, 11 years of talking about gardening on the internet, like I'm experienced, right? I've been through a lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
18
Yeah.
years as a designer, 11 years talking about gardening. So yeah, so I definitely am happy to call myself a garden communicator. So
Good,
uh,
good. Well,
yeah.
everybody has a little bit of imposter syndrome in them,
Mhm.
but that we all have to get over. But what unites everyone in GardenComm is a passion for plants.
Yeah. And now, how does someone get started? Is it just doing that as
Easy.
far as membership, or?
Well, they can go to gardencom.org,
Okay.
and there's a page there about member benefits and the things that go on. You can see there's a part of our web presence that's open to the public, everyone, and then there's a part of our website that is only open to members. So there are discussions going on the group side. We have our own uh, social media for members. And so there are those things that are going on. There are groups for members called targeted skills development groups. So if you're interested in developing your skills as a speaker, for example, or if you are interested in learning more about the trade and the green industry trade, there are groups for that. And as you mentioned, power circles are like a book club, only they are for a group of people who want to develop certain skills around garden communications. And they meet regularly uh, with Zoom and have their meetings and support each other. And kind of having that once a month check in,
Mhm.
uh, gives you that deadline that sometimes we need,
Yeah.
particularly for somebody who says, well, I want to write a garden book. I want to write a gardening book. And being a member of a power circle for writing a new book is wonderful, because you're going to have to be accountable every month for what you might have done in that
Right.
direction, right?
Oh,
As
right.
well as
Yeah.
getting encouragement and advice from the other people.
Yeah. So yeah, and like really an accountability partner.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So that's part of what the organization does. But if people go to gardencom.org and poke around in there, you will see all kinds of information about the organization.
Excellent. And I also liked the online learning as well. So as much as there's the accountability and the networking, you can, and even though you can, like you said, the one group talking about improving speaking, but there are other, how to create, and I printed out off a few, how to create and market an online course, picture perfect phone photography. Don't we all need that, right?
Yes, yeah, we've almost finished our winter webinar series, although you can still buy the whole series and watch the recordings. There
Okay.
is one coming up. I'm trying to remember when it is in March, but there's one coming up on the 18th of March, and that one is for people kind of new to
Mm.
the garden communications business. And it came out of the fact that we had a panel in the original series earlier in the winter about being a professional garden communicator and how you go about it and all of that. And at the end of that panel, the panel was great and had great advice, but it wasn't a start from ground level panel, right?
Right.
At the end of the panel, people were saying, well, how can I make money at this right away? What can I do that's going to earn money right away while I'm building a reputation? I can't interest a publisher in a book right now. I don't have a big platform, a big reputation. I can't charge a lot for speaking yet because again, I'm not that well known. How can I start to build a business from the ground up? And we decided we need another session that specifically addresses that, right? That
Right.
as you are building your platform for writing a book, or what you can do. So we're doing that special session that is going to be a panel of 4 people, how you can start from ground level, earning money and building toward something bigger.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah,
Wonderful. And I love what you said about, so these are all recorded. So all of these lessons and courses are recorded. And
that's
so
right.
then you can purchase the package, and can you purchase them individually or?
Purchase them individually.
Okay.
I'm thinking that they might be $24, $25 individually, but it's $99 for all of them.
Okay.
And so, you can purchase the whole group of 11, I believe. Um, and with, from various aspects, and as you mentioned, various topics
Mm-hmm.
that of garden communicating. Yeah.
Okay. And you also have, I'm going to pull it up on my website here too. In January, is there not like a trade, is it the Grow Up? Is that part of the same organization or no? Am I?
We had a meeting in January at Mance in Baltimore, one of the big
Okay.
horticultural trade shows. We kind of we're kind of like a rock band on tour, that you can come and see us play in many cities and at many events. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, and we tend to have all of those listed, and but the big horticultural events and trade shows we meet at pretty much every year.
Okay. Okay. That's great. And it is very interesting. So I think that's wonderful that there is this, I mean, even more than I've been able to appreciate after just being a member for 1 year.
Yeah. Well,
Yes,
and it's, as you say, it's we're all so busy.
I know.
I have myself on Facebook listed as a professional juggler, uh, because keeping all the balls in the air, it's formidable, right?
Hmm.
Speaking and writing and the radio, and I do some consulting. I work part-time at a local garden center, and once in a while I have to remind my husband that we're married.
Yeah.
So a lot, and for everyone it's a lot.
Hmm.
But but on the other hand, I realized early on, I've been a member of several professional organizations, and I realized that the ones that I scheduled the time to participate in, including doing a little bit of volunteering
Mm.
for them, those were the ones that I got the most out of, and that brought the biggest return. And the ones that I just paid the dues and thought, oh, someday I'll have time to,
Yeah.
know, uh, I didn't get anything out of,
Yeah.
and no wonder. So
Yeah. Excellent. Well, I'm excited to have learned more about the organization, like done a deeper dive and I think it's good for our listeners to know because I know there could be aspiring writers in amongst us or other podcasters I know listen and as I listen to their podcasts. So I think it's a something I've been wanting to do for a while is to learn more about it and to kind of do a podcast to just talk more about it. And especially being in Ontario, we're a little bit more removed, especially since we lost Canada Blooms. And so yeah, so I'm really thankful to learn and then learn it right from the top, right from the president. So that's great. So is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we go?
I don't think so. I would just say, check out the website.
Mhm.
If anybody listening to this podcast or watching, are you on YouTube too? The
I am,
podcast?
yes.
Okay. So if anybody's watching or listening, they can always contact me if they have questions. My website is gardenlady.com. And so they can go there and find out how to contact me. And they can go to GardenComm, and they have a info at GardenComm that they can also write our staff with questions. So yeah, come and check it out.
Excellent, excellent. And can I ask you in advance to come back after your hydrangea book is ready to
I
go?
would love to come back after my
Excellent,
hydrangea book. So
excellent. Because
we'll get you a review copy when it's hot off the press, and we can come back and talk about it.
that would be wonderful, because that is, one of my favorite plants, and I know one of the plants favorites of most of my clients. So yes, so that would
I'm
be
all
great.
about hydrangea happiness, and that will
Yeah.
be the title of the book. So
Oh, even perfect. Excellent.
good.
Well, thank you so much for joining me here on Down the Garden Path. It was great to meet you, face to face. And I promise, hopefully, I will see you on one of our events with GardenComm.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Joanne. It's been delightful.
You're welcome. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this episode of Down the Garden Path. We'll see you next week.